Are you looking for the magic to make your life truly count? Do you want the secret formula to make every day your best day yet? Hello, and welcome to the Finishing on Fire radio show. And now, here are your show hosts, Dave Wadsworth and Greg Vance.
Greg, good to see you again.
Hey, Dave. Good afternoon.
We've got a really good episode ahead of us, but it's kind of a downer. But we are actually talking about death, and not just death in general. We're talking about your death, which is not really that funny, but something we don't think about a lot. As we get older, sometimes we do. We don't dwell on it, but it becomes a little more real. Don't you think it does, Greg? Don't you see that?
Oh my gosh, yes. Especially if you start doing some of the more serious things in life, thinking about your will and maybe who's going to take care of your kids and life insurance and things like that. It starts to get pretty serious pretty quick.
Yeah, serious stuff. And we're going to talk about that because a lot of this information we talk about comes from my book, the Amazon #1 bestseller, Finishing on Fire. Finishing on Fire, and the subtitle is Live Your Legacy of Purpose, Passion, and Prosperity. And in that book, we talk about death, and we talk about a chapter actually is called The Flags of Life, but it talks about death in there and how sometimes you get a black flag, and that is a death moment. And we're going to talk about different people in your life that pass, but tonight is about your death and not, somebody else's. It's about you and where you at with that. So, Greg, what's your thought on it?
Yeah. So I think, just thinking about somebody maybe listening today, and they may think, I'm going to turn this episode off because this doesn't sound very fun. I would encourage you to listen on a little bit more. It may not be fun to think about, but it is a positive and forward thinking action to think about this and to just work your way through it. I mean, we don't have a choice. We're at some point in time, we're going to expire from this earth.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. So I think we want to be able to do that on a way that we've done our best, and we've left those around us in the best shape that we can, with the least. Hopefully they're going to have some grief and miss us. They're going to miss us. But we don't want to add to that stress, So anyway.
Yeah. That's good. And the thing about it, a lot of times, I know I've accused my wife of being an ostrich. I said, honey, when it comes to certain things, but like death and talking about this stuff, she puts her head in the sand and just pretends, oh, I don't see it, so it's not going to happen. It's not reality. And guys, it's reality. We're all going to go. And the best thing we can do is to love our family and prepare, for that, inevitable situation and make it the least painful as we can for our families. If you love anybody, you need to be smart about this thing and think about it and make some plans. But we've got, I think in our show tonight, Greg, something I'm excited about is living a life every day as if it's your last day, and just make it a really good day. And that's what the whole book is about. Finishing on Fire. It's about finishing your life on fire. And I say at the end, you can either fire up or you can fizzle out. And it's a daily choice, what you want to do. So now this would be a good time. We need to mention our website is finishingonfire.com, finishingonfire.com. And if you do want a copy of the book, just go on Amazon, type in, Dave Wadsworth, WADSWORTH, Wadsworth. Or you can just, type in Finishing on Fire and it should pop up. But these are our ideas that we want to share because we care about you living your life every day and just making it a great day. And so that's what we want to talk about and how we can help you do that. So
you want to start off with, I think you had a quote from the book that you wanted to share with us today.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. I started out the book, the very first chapter, and we talked about that here, I don't know, a few episodes ago about my granddaughter, Harper Lee. But actually in chapter 1, the very first of that chapter is a quote, and it's actually from James 4:14. If you're a Christian, you know where that's at. It's in the New Testament, but it's James 4:14. And the quote is, it's actually a question first and then the answer. And it's very straightforward. It's really kind of interesting if you think about it. So the quote is, "What is your life? You are a mist, a fleeting vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes." All right. One more time. What is your life? You are a mist, a fleeting vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes. That's kind of sobering, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that, word picture of a vapor or a mist, and you just visualize what that looks like. Perhaps you're going outside in a cold day and expelling some air, and you see that vapor that just disperses quickly. Or I don't know, maybe you're cooking and you're making some things on the stove, and you can see how quickly that just dissipates and rolls off.
Oh yeah, that's a good word picture. The way you said that, like going out in the cold, it's wintertime right now, and you think about that, you go out and you breathe heavy and you just see a big vapor, big cloud there, but in a few seconds it's gone. And if you think about your life as we get older, and I don't know if you feel this way too, Greg, but it seems like time just moves faster and faster and faster, that the years click off. Like before, seemed like time would drag on, and the years would drag on, but now it's like, wow, where did that year go?
Yeah. So it's moving right along, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's not stopping for you. That's for sure. Now, one of the things, Greg, in my book, there's a chapter in here called Dead by Midnight. And we want to talk about that a little bit. And that's, on page 130, it's a start of a chapter, and it's an idea that was proposed by Og Mandino, and Og Mandino was a great man. He was a person who wanted to help the world, and he did with his books. He had written and sold, I think at the time, years ago, it was over 14 million copies of his books, which at the time was a world record. Now, of course, that was way before Chicken Soup for the Soul and all that stuff. But Og Mandino, he talked about, and this is in this chapter that I'm telling you about. It's called, the chapter is called Dead by Midnight. And the whole idea, and this is a nugget that I'm glad if you're still listening, which you are, because you're hearing me, but Dead by Midnight is something I talk about a lot. And it is just an idea for you to use and implement in your life. And if you'll just do this one thing, implement this one idea out of this book, it'll change your life immediately and profoundly. I am just amazed at when I implement this stuff. When I look at this, it's amazing what happens. But and it talks about here, I talk about, so many times we judge, criticize, and condemn people flippantly. We just kind of look at them when we make a comment, or we're thinking, ill of them. And we have little or no regard for their life or what they're going through. Greg, sometimes people are just, they're having a bad day. We don't know what they're dealing with. And so many times we need to realize that given their circumstances, if we were in their shoes, we would probably respond in a similar way, because, we're pulled that way. But the story of Dead by Midnight, do you remember what it's about? Can you tell it, or you want me to tell it?
If you tell it, it'll be much more entertaining. So I'm gonna let you tell it.
Yeah, I'll screw it up way better than you. Come on, hey, that'll make it laugh. The whole idea was this. Og Mandino, he said, if you want to change people's lives and you want to change your life, this is a habit you want to start doing. And he said, when you get up in the morning, every person you meet, you want to pretend that you have a deep, dark secret about that person that they don't know, nobody knows but you. And you have this secret, and you know that that person is going to be dead by midnight, that their life will end. It will actually come to end at midnight tonight. And you know that, but they don't, and they're just going along with life. And when you look at somebody in that regard, and if you'll do this, if you'll look at every person you meet and think, okay, I got a secret, and the secret is this person's going to be dead by midnight. Well, how would you treat that person? How would you respect that person? How would you regard that person differently than you do now? And a lot of times we go through life, and we just we ignore people, or we just look down upon people, or we don't give them their respect. We just kind of go through the motions. But if we look at somebody like this, each person, say the guy at the toll booth, if you're driving through traffic and you go to the toll booth and you're throwing your money in and you need change or whatever, he's got a job that, we wouldn't want, but his life may be really tough too. But you need to realize he's got probably a mom and a dad, or maybe children, maybe a wife, someone. And so if we treat him with kindness and respect, like he is going to be dead by midnight, because I guarantee you when he dies, there's going to be a lot of grief. People will be upset. And the next day, there's going to be a family that's lost because, there's a big hole in their heart. And we need to look at treating people with this mindset. And this thought pattern is, hey, they're going to be dead by midnight. And I guarantee you start treating people like they're going to be dead by midnight, you're going to be friendlier to them. You're going to be more courteous. You're going to, spend a little bit more time with them and just encourage them, lift them up, because, and when you do that, here's the result. Not only are you going to help them have a much better day, and they're going to be, buoyed, their spirit will be lifted, but yours will be too. It'll be amazing how their reaction will be so positive and come back to you in a way that you're like, wow, that was a nice exchange, a greeting, and then another greeting, and back and forth, and just a kindness, a kind word. And I know the way the world is now, it seems like, that's lacking in our common discourse every day. And I think about that. So that's what dead by midnight means. And if you will just try to treat people that way, and you could start with your spouse, or start with your children, or your parents, whoever, but every person, and just pretend that, hey, this is their last day. All right. Treat them with the respect that they deserve. And you will be surprised. You'll be flabbergasted at the response you get and how much it will enhance your life. And I think that's phenomenal. That's just my idea. So,
yeah, I love that. I love that story and that mindset. And especially, we've talked a lot about regrets, and even each day, especially, sometimes we're in a hurry. We go speeding through our day. We don't think about the other people around us. And then until you get home later that night, you put your head on the pillow or something, and you have a moment and you think, wow, I wasn't, that exchange with somebody that you had an interaction with. Yeah, that didn't go so well. I should have been a better person, and, showed up as a better person today. And so this is just for us all to think about, just being more present in what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Because we just, like you say, you speed through your day and you just overlook people and situations, and I found out, Greg, that when I stop and look at somebody and recognize them and realize that, what, they've got issues too. And they're a person just like me, and respect them the way they deserve, that all of a sudden I learn things, because I talk to people and things come out, and I'm like, wow, I'm glad I said something to that person, because I learned, this or that, which is really very positive. I love to learn. And I think if we take that little bit of time to have that common, courteous, brief conversation, that our life will be enhanced tremendously. And so I just like the whole idea. So, yeah.
So one of the things I know we were going to talk about today is, so not only do we have the normal, I guess, thoughts about death and how that might come about. We're in somewhere, maybe we'll call it the middle of COVID-19. We don't know if we're near the end. Who knows? So we're just going to call it the middle for right now. So, but in that situation, I mean, it kind of actually, I was sitting here thinking about this as we were talking about. It combines the word picture of the vapor, because everyone's walking around with masks on because they're afraid of essentially vapors from other people.
Yes.
Or their vapor going to some other person. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like another new meaning with this whole thing as you think about that. But I think the bottom line we wanted to touch upon was, COVID-19. It's an equal opportunity thing. It can really, though it seems to have a bigger impact on older people that have been with us longer. Can have some really serious illnesses, even some of those resulting in death. But it doesn't skip over people. It seems to go after them with equal veracity. So that really brings things to mind when you're thinking about that person that you're talking with today that has a mask on, that you can't see their facial expressions. It's even a little more challenging to be nice to them because you're not sure how they're being to you. And so you just need to go that extra mile and make sure that you've done your best.
That's a really good point. I never really thought of it that way, but you're right. It does. I love, my wife and I went out for lunch the other day. It was her birthday, and the lady that served us, she had, instead of having a mask on, she had the face shield. And she had the most beautiful smile and the most beautiful teeth. And I told her, I said, I just love your smile. You've got a beautiful smile. We were actually at an Amish restaurant. Okay. And she beamed. I mean, she just, smiled so big, and the mask, it takes that away. But her face shield, she just had glasses and a real light, thin shield, but it was a full size shield. So it was protecting. And I kind of wish we all had that, so we could, because I think a lot of times we're hiding behind those masks, and it's really kind of a sad issue, with hiding our expressions and our smile, because our communication, the vast majority of communication is nonverbal.
Right.
And when you're talking to people, and my wife says, Dave, you're deaf. You can't hear stuff. And I said, well, it's probably selective hearing, like a 3-year-old, I hear what I want to hear. But she says I'm deaf. And I realized with our mask on, so many times I'm looking at lips and I'm reading lips, and I have to have the full face to really catch everything like I was. And all of a sudden this has kind of hampered my communication. And so, maybe I am a little deaf, but we talk about this COVID thing, Greg. I don't know how you've come out as far as how you've been impacted with your family, but my dad, he passed away in 2016. It's kind of a weird deal. He was in a nursing home, but his sister was 86 and dad was 84. And dad died 3 months to the day after his sister, which is kind of phenomenal. It's like, okay, they lived 84 and 86 years.
Wow.
And then they both died within 3 months exactly of each other. Just boom, they were gone. And my aunt she had cancer, but she wasn't supposed to die, but it was kind of a quick thing and it took her. And then within 3 months, then my dad, he had a little stint. He went from the nursing home to the hospital, just an overnight thing. My brother and I were there. And they talked like, okay, we're going to keep him overnight. We'll see how he does. The next morning, he was good. Everything seemed good. They were going to take him back to the nursing home. He was, talking and everything's great. All of a sudden that afternoon, he just took a turn for the worst. And by midnight, he was gone. My dad was gone. And it's just that quick. And it's like, wow. And you kind of think, well, was dad just kind of hanging on to take care of his sister, just, make sure she was okay. And then he passed. I don't know. You think of these funny things because dad, he kind of took care of his older sister. She had a kind of a rough life, up and down and stuff. But anyway, but dad was in this nursing home, and they got hit so bad by the COVID. It came in, and one of the first people that died actually was my cousin Jenny. And now she was 82, and so she had a long life. And then it went through, and it's not a big nursing home, and it ended up killing, I think, 16 of the residents died in that nursing home. And one of the biggest tragedies, Greg, this just broke my heart. The family, they were not allowed to come in and comfort their dying parents or sibling, whoever it might be, but mostly, a parent. But the children weren't able to sit in there and just hold their hand, as they suffered and passed because of the COVID restrictions. And to me, that's sad. And that, in my opinion, that's wrong. Let them suit up, in some kind of bodysuit, go into the room, and then they're not around anybody except for their loved one, and let them, just because a lot of people are scared when they're dying. They just don't want to die alone. I had a friend years ago, and he said, "You know what, Dave?" He says he had stage 4 liver cancer, something really bad, and he said, "I just don't want to die alone. I just don't want to die alone." And he was a young guy like me. He was, 56 at the time, maybe. So it's kind of sad. But I was going to say the COVID thing. So it took out my cousin Jenny. She was 82, and then I had a cousin 62, and she died of the COVID, and she had a pre-existing condition. She had some health issues, and then I had another cousin who come within a whisker of death. I mean, he was so close. They called him his miracle. The doctor said, "This is my miracle fellow here." And then I had a third cousin that was 52, and she was in great health, and she died. Okay. Wow. And last night I found that my one of my neighbors, lifelong friend, I grew up, we were just 2 doors away, and I played in the sandbox with his little sister. She was about my age when we were little kids. We were 4 and 5 years old. I remember being in the sandbox with her, and I played basketball with this guy. I played football out at the park. We played baseball. We just had a lot of fun, and we grew up together. And he passed away last night at my wife's hospital of COVID, and just a sad deal. Now, he had a pre-existing condition. He had diabetes, and he had lost a leg a year or two ago. But still, it was just hard. And he was 64 years old, 64 years old. And I've lost a lot of family and friends. And it's so weird. I've had people that I've dealt with and talked to that were, in their 70s and 80s and got the COVID. They had a few symptoms and stuff, nothing too bad, and they were fine. And then younger people that got it, and it just whipped them. I mean, my nephew, he is 28 years old, and he got COVID out in Kansas City, and it laid him flat on his back for 2 days. He couldn't hardly move a muscle, he said. And it took him a while, but he come out of it, and now he's good, but he lost his sense of taste and smell. And then all of a sudden his body was just taken over by this disease. So when we talk about death and then our death, I think, this COVID really opens our eyes to how fleeting our lives are, and how quickly death is just right there. So it just kind of, I don't know. Wow. It kind of takes the wind out of you. I don't know, just crazy. So
I would say you've been hit a little bit harder than many other people that I've talked to, and more than, we have as well. We've known a number of people that have contracted COVID-19, and one of them was some good friends of ours that they have a very large family business. It's a wholesale greenhouse, and so the husband got it first, then their son-in-law, then some of their employees, and then the spouse of the husband got it. Thankfully, I mean, it was touch and go for the wife and the husband. Yeah. But they're thankfully they're all still with us now, so that's wow. A good outcome.
Wow. And see, that was it's the weirdest thing about this disease. My cousin, who's 52, she was a vibrant young woman. You know, I say 52 young woman because I'm 60 now.
Mhm.
But the thing is, she was healthy and everything. Now, her father-in-law, who was, see, how old is he? He's about 80, 2 or 3 maybe right now. And he got it too. Now, he was sick, but and he was in the hospital for a little while, but he came around and he survived. But she was 30 years younger and in much better health and didn't have the pre-existing conditions, and yet
Right.
it got her. It took her, and she couldn't come out of it. So and sometimes it's a thing of you feel as you're younger and stronger, you feel like, well, I don't need to go to the hospital. I'll just fight it off. I'll just fight it off, like you always do. That's the way
Right.
we are. We're like, okay, yeah, it's just another episode in life that's going to be hard, but we just don't think about going to the hospital at the drop of a hat. But this thing here is so weird and so unpredictable. I think we have to look at things a little differently, and so I don't know, it's just kind of scary. So
So I was thinking about the world before COVID-19, and so I went and looked up today what the life expectancy prediction was for 2019. Because those are formulated ahead of time. It's not at the end of 2019, but the average age was 78.87 years.
wow.
Yeah, life expectancy. Things are getting longer, but that's
Now is that
gonna-
men or is that everybody? Is that men?
that's
or
combined.
women?
It's combined together.
Okay. All right. So right now, how old are you?
How old am I? I'm 62.
Can you tell your age?
Yeah,
Yeah. How old are you?
6'2".
62. Okay. All right. I just turned 60. Okay. Which is kind of amazing. And so that means I'm looking at 78. So I've got another 18.87 years. So I guess if you think about it, our lifespan has depressed, or it's kind of restricted or constricted, I guess, to a point of less than 20 years.
Mhm.
Is what we can think about. And that's kind of what I had in my book. I write Finishing on Fire. We're basically in our fourth quarter. I was watching the football game, the playoffs. The Packers just got beat by Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay. Yuck. But anyway, and the thing is, we need to be playing our game of life as if we're in the final quarter. Okay. We're in the fourth quarter, and we got to go for it. We've got to do it. We've got to, and actually some of us really, we're probably at the 2-minute warning where we need to really, we really heighten the awareness, of life. But, you talk about this life expectancy. I want to bring in something funny. We're in future episodes, what we're going to have different segments, and one is called Wadsy's World, and we're going to have funny stories about animals that we're going to talk about, and Greg's going to pick an animal just at random, and from a list. There's going to be like 40 some of them, maybe over 50 by the time we get done, but he's going to pick an animal, and then I've got to come up with a story just right off the cuff about that particular animal that I've had an encounter with in my life, and I've had some really, really funny and amazing stories with animals all over the world in my life. And one thing we talk about life, you said life expectancy, and with a cat, they say, I don't know how long a cat's supposed to live, but I know they say they have 9 lives. Well, the current cat we've got, Steve-O, he's got like 99 lives. The dude is living forever, but I don't know. He's got like a death wish. I mean, I don't know some of the things, and we'll talk about him later. But one story I wanted to bring up for Wadsy's World for this episode is the hourglass kitty. And my wife, I tell you what, she's funny, but she gets up early in the morning, and typically she goes out the side kitchen door into the garage. And she opens the garage door. She'll push the button on the wall there, and it lifts the garage door. And then she'll go around behind, put stuff in her car, and then get in and pull out of the drive or the garage. And of course, I always like to go in and get in my vehicle, and then I push the button and open the garage door and back out. That's the way I do it. It's just kind of different. Well, we had some cats, And I don't even know the name of this one. But anyway, one morning, what happened? Well, the night before, this is what happened. I was running around doing stuff. I come in the house and then I looked out and I realized the garage door was still up. So I reached out the door, the kitchen door, and I pushed the button and the garage door went down. And I'm like, okay, the garage door down. I went to bed, right? Well, the next morning, Glenda's up at like 4:30 in the morning, 4:45, and she's getting ready for work. And so she gets everything ready and she goes out to get in her car and she pushes the garage door button to lift the garage door. And she walks around behind her car and she looks and there's a cat laying there over behind my car. And she says, "Oh, kitty, time to get up." You know, she thought the kitty was sleeping, right? Well, actually, the kitty was not sleeping. Well, permanently sleeping. What had happened? These cats are so stupid, and I know they don't know how to operate garage doors, but they stand there underneath the garage door, and they're looking at it, and they're like, see, in, out, crunch, you know, because they're right underneath it, you know, and they can't decide, do I want to go in? Do I want to go out? Do I want to go in, go out? And by that time, then the door just kind of collapses on them, you know, and they're like, okay, so this cat, what had happened, the door is standing underneath there, you know, I couldn't decide. And the garage door came down kind of right on its middle. And all night long, the door was on the cat, and when she raised up the door, you know, it had suffocated. And what had happened, it looked like an hourglass, you know, big on both ends and skinny in the middle. And my wife just goes nuts. She comes screaming in the house, Dave, you know, oh my gosh, the kitty, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, not another one. So I have to come out at, you know, I wasn't even up yet. And it was like 5:15 or 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, okay, it's pitch black outside. I've got to take care of the cat. You know, Dave gets a job of burying the cat. So this is, this cat here, he wasn't a full adult, but he was pretty big, but you know, his life was ended very quickly. And and I shouldn't laugh at death, but I mean, it's part of life. We're not going to get out of this thing alive. So we need to deal with it. And sometimes we just have to laugh and go on.
Move on. Yeah.
But that's the story of the hourglass kitty. So if you don't like my hourglass kitty story, I guess you'll have to quit listening to further episodes. But not every story about animals will end in death. I promise you that. So,
Yeah.
But since we were talking about death, hey.
Yeah, sorry for that. Sorry for your cat loss, but yeah, it does fit with today's subject really well, as you just were saying.
Now one thing, the Dead by Midnight, you know, I want to, I guess that kind of goes into our behavior every day, and kind of the thing I like to talk about is, you know, trying to be non-judgmental. I've got a note on my desk, and it talks about, you know, no criticizing, condemning, or judging. And as I've gotten older, I've tried to be careful about that, of criticizing people and judging them and condemning them, because you know, one thing is, life is pretty short. You know, let's try to stick to the good stuff and the positive. But also, I find out that when I find out more information about that person and their situation, that I also have a lot of empathy for them. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, now I see why they were being kind of a jerk or rude, or why they did what they did, you know? So that's one part of, you know, realizing, I think, our mortality, we stop trying to criticize, condemn, and judge so much. So I don't know. Have you found that, Greg, in your life? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about how many times in your life, I'm sure you've had this situation too, where you meet somebody, you have an initial impression of them, and maybe it's not the best. And then either they're a coworker, you have to work alongside them. Maybe it's someone that is in the neighborhood, your new neighbor or something like that. But then you spend time with them, some elongated time, really get to know them, and you find out, oh my gosh, you understand the context of their life, and you know more about their story, and it gives them an opportunity to really shine before your eyes. Not that they have to do that, but it's you doing the understanding and really getting a better picture of who they're all about, valuing them as a real individual person.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember when I was young, I had a lady that came to visit my grandma. We were at my grandma's. I was a young boy, and this lady, and I looked at her and I thought, oh my gosh, that's the ugliest woman I've ever seen in my life. And that's just what popped in my head. I didn't say anything. I mean, I didn't say, "Hey, lady, you're just ugly." You know, you're like mud fence ugly. I didn't do that, but I judged her and I looked at her and
Right.
I thought, wow, she's just not a very attractive person. Well, come to find out, a few years ago, I had her as a teacher
Mm,
in a class, a Sunday school class, actually, and she was one of the most wonderful human beings to ever walk the face of the earth.
yeah.
And today I can tell you all kinds of things about that woman. But my first judgmental thoughts about her was, wow, she's not attractive at all. But the beauty of that woman was far surpassed any beauty I ever had. But because her heart, her generosity was phenomenal. The kindness, the things that she would do for people, especially children. She was just so good with children. And I was like, and I am ashamed to this day. And that's been 55 years ago, you know. It's like, you know, and so that judging, condemning, criticizing, so many times it's a wrong reaction, and just kind of a knee jerk reaction
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
really is not something that sticks. Now, a lot of times a first reaction, you learn a lot that way, but be careful, be careful. And so I think that will enhance your life if you look at things, little more in perspective of that. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I love the, just the thought of that. If you can plant that seed, that dead by midnight seed in your brain every day. And I know you've got a couple other things some wisdom to provide to us around that thought. But, if you can begin the day with that in your mind, you're going to have a lot better, lot better outlook, a lot better set of interactions, a lot fairer set of interactions with other people, and really get to appreciate them for who they are.
Yeah, and it's funny how you just go right by people, and you're in your own little world, but you're missing out on the spice of life is variety and learning and exploring and the creativity. We talked about that with Harper Lee, my 3-year-old
Mhm.
granddaughter, how she is so full of passion, and her purpose is to love and sing and enjoy and create with everyone and everything that she's involved with, just to live to the max. And I think what you were saying there, if we open our eyes to every person we meet, and I'm not talking about, grab everybody on the street and say, well, how you doing, and what, tell me what's new in your life, all that. No, no, no. I'm just saying, when you're checking out at the grocery store, don't just, go through the motions. Okay, here's the money, to give me that. Just say, how you doing today? Just brief conversations, but
Right.
genuine stuff, and it will light your fire. I'm telling you, Greg, it will light you up, and all of a sudden it'll light that other person up. Now, they may just be an old grumbly person, and that's okay. You just leave them alone, but you did your part to reach to them and try to encourage them, and just, be a kind person. Because a lot of people that go through the checkout line at a store or somewhere, they're just not very friendly with the
Sure.
cashier or the clerk, and which is sad. They kind of look down on them, they judge them, they whatever. And I have no use for that. I really don't. So yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate how you said that. So yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the kind of when you see some people, and not that, we've probably done this ourselves and maybe didn't realize it, but I try not to. But you see people that are in front of you in line, and they treat the checkout person like they're an ATM, like they're almost not a person.
Exactly.
Right. And it's,
Oh
and you think about what's that do to that person's day and how they feel about themselves, and, and such. So that's where I think this challenge is really great, because it just helps us to really, open our eyes and wake up. Don't be that
yeah.
person.
Yeah, do not. And a lot of times I'll sit back and I'll watch other people, and I truly feel this, Greg. The measure of a person, the quality of a person, is how they treat people that can't do anything for them.
Yep.
Okay. everybody schmoozes up and is nice to people that they can get something from, or will give them what they need. But the way you treat somebody that really can't do anything for you, that shows who you are. And you can look and you can watch people, how they interact with the cashier or a clerk or someone in a toll booth person or whoever it is, just everyday exchanges. You see how people treat, people that are not, not famous or a person of high status, I guess, how I'm saying it, and or a substantial wealth or whatever. How do you treat people that can't do anything for you? That really tells me who you are, in your heart. And so that tells me a
Exactly.
lot.
Exactly. So I think
Yeah.
one of the things you were going to do today for us is kind of give us I know that our theme song that we have for this podcast, you had commissioned that with some artists to create that, but with your inspiration to it, you're going to tell us a little bit more about that and how it applies to today.
That is so funny. There's a couple, Todd and Emily, and I'll give them a plug here. It's called giftysong.com, GIFTY, giftysong.com. And Greg, what they do, if you have like a big anniversary coming up or a big party coming up, like a birthday, or like for this podcast, we had a song written specifically about, a music about what we want as an intro and an outro to our song, our show here. And it goes along with the next book I'm writing or planning on writing. It's in my list of books, but it's called Attitude Before Underwear. And the funny thing I think you were alluding to is about that song. It's really, I love the whole song. If you ever listen to the whole song, and we need to play that sometime, but it talks about in the morning. This is what the whole premise of the book is, and this is a challenge for you guys out there. This is your challenge. Okay. In the morning, when you get up, okay, before you put on your socks, before you put on your shirt, before you put on your underwear, you have to put on the attitude that you're going to wear for the day. That's the most important thing that you will put on for the day. It's not your socks, your shoes, your shirt, your underwear. It's your attitude. So before your underwear, you put on the attitude that you're going to wear, because that's your choice, Greg. It is exactly 100% in your control, the attitude that you wear or you carry for the day. If it's going to be positive, if you're going to be a nice person, a good person, a respectful person of everyone, or you're just going to be a flat out jerk or somebody that's rude and obnoxious and doesn't, and sees through people or looks over the top of people, that doesn't recognize people. That's an attitude of arrogance, an attitude of pride, and something that will absolutely make your life miserable. It really will. Now, you may pretend that you're not miserable, but you are. And if you've got a negative attitude and you go through life like that, you're empty. You really are. And you're living in a state of scarcity, and your mentality is scarcity. But attitude before underwear, that's your challenge this week. When you get up in the morning, when you're getting dressed, before you put on anything, put on the attitude that you're going to wear that day, and it will change your life. It makes the difference. It really does. And it's 100% yours. Doesn't matter what other people say to you. Doesn't matter what other people do. It doesn't matter about the events of the world. Right. You still have 100% control of your attitude. And I believe that with every fiber of my being, because I know, reading Viktor Frankl's book, In Man's Search for Meaning, he was in Auschwitz, the Nazi death camp, and the Nazis had stripped him of everything. And he said, they killed his wife, his new young wife, his parents, one of his siblings. They took everything. They took his clothes. They took everything, his home, his medical practice as a young doctor in Austria. And he said, our last freedom as a human being is our attitude. Our choice to choose our attitude, to respond to life in whatever way we want. And he decided to respond after he had been stripped of everything, to respond in a positive way and try to survive and live and tell the story about what happened in those death camps in Auschwitz and all the others. And that was so powerful for him. And it's powerful for me, to know that, hey, no matter what I have taken away from me, I do have the power of my choice, my attitude to respond to life in a very positive way. And so, and I know you've done that too, Greg, in your life. You've probably had situations where, things were pretty ugly, but yet you decided, okay, I want to go this direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You think about, and I won't go into the details of it, but let's just say I had a new a new boss at one point, and we didn't see things the same way, and it was obvious for both of us. And it was a challenge to go into work every day, do a great job, knowing that there was that conflict. And I'm sure our listeners have had this happen with family members or some other relative, a neighbor or something like that, where it's just a challenge, day in, day out. But definitely that quote, that illustration for Viktor Frankl, I don't think any of us have an extreme situation like he had.
Oh, no way.
But oh my gosh, if he can do that in the face of that, that type of situation, we should certainly be able to rise to the challenge ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's really a good point, because we don't have any excuses. We really don't. We try to, rationalize, our behavior and our responses in negative ways, but we can't. When we look at someone like that, we know that in our worst situation, we still have a choice of how we respond and our attitude. And you just have to look around a little bit. If you're in America, we need to have that attitude of gratitude, because we have a phenomenal life. I've been to many third world countries, and I've helped a lot of people, through mission work and stuff, building homes or whatever it was. And when I get back to the USA, boy, you just want to kiss the ground. I mean, I actually want to. I've had times when I remember flying into Miami International Airport once, and I thought I was actually going to lay on the floor and kiss the ground. I was so happy to be back in America. And I'm like, wow, because things had happened, and there's some unrest, some political unrest and some kind of some dangerous situations. And I thought, wow, you don't realize how fortunate you are to be in America. And the poorest of the poor in America are rich. They really are. They truly are. You just don't realize it. So I think that attitude of thankfulness, and I guess we want to kind of wrap this up and talk about, okay, what are the takeaways from today? Here's what we want you to know. Okay. Dead by Midnight, fantastic way to change your life today. Okay. Now you need to think about you may be dead by midnight. This may be your last one. This may be it, very possibly. You just don't know. So how are you going to treat the next person that comes through that door? How are you going to look at and appreciate when you look around? You go into the bathroom and you turn on a faucet with water, and you could have hot water, you can have cold water, you could brush your teeth, or you can get a big glass of water, and it's clean, it's fresh, and you can drink it without getting some kind of, what is that, amoebic dysentery or something, crazy, which I've had some of that stuff in other countries where you just like get a bug and you can't get it out. But have an attitude of gratitude today. Think about death, your death, and how quickly it can come upon you, and how today you need to live as if you may be the one that's gone. And the other thing was the attitude in the morning, when you get up, the attitude before underwear. Remember that attitude before underwear. And that's probably all you need to know, because that will change your life also. Attitude before underwear. And as always, remember our website, finishingonfire.com. This is a Finishing on Fire radio show. Greg Vance, Awesome dude. And Dave Wadsworth we're talking about the book, the Finishing on Fire book. It's on Amazon by myself, Dave Wadsworth. And please, if you want to get a copy of that and enhance your life, you can. If you got Kindle, you can just pull it up and read it, and I think you may read it for free, but it's like $10 on Amazon. And if you don't have that kind of money, just give me a call sometime and we'll fix you up if you're that tight. And I guarantee you, if you don't get $10 worth out of it in the first chapter, then you're sad. You really are, but you will. So I guess we need to leave with the question of the day. Are you growing or are you dying?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's our choice. We're either growing today or we're dying. And so basically we finish up by saying, you can either fire up or you can fizzle out. So guys, let's fire up, and good luck to you.
Thank you for listening to the Finishing on Fire radio show. Be sure to visit finishingonfire.com for more great content. Go light your world.